I want to ask you to pause for a moment and step out of the constant noise of your thoughts. Take this time to quietly listen to what your intuition has been trying to communicate to you for a while now. It is very possible that over the past few days, or even within the last few hours, you have experienced an unusual sense of restlessness, a subtle pressure in your chest, or a sudden thought that appeared without warning and connected you to a specific person. You may have felt that despite physical distance or complete silence on the surface, some form of unseen communication is happening at a deeper level. This experience is not imaginary. This restlessness is not caused by anxiety, nor is it the result of a desperate attempt to hold on to the past. It is the reflection of an energy moving in your direction. There is a reason you are hearing this now. In the realm of energy and vibration, nothing happens by chance, and no encounter is meaningless. If you have reached this point, it is because your inner self has been searching for confirmation of something you already sensed, but your rational mind tried to dismiss out of fear of being disappointed again. Your soul is capable of perceiving subtle signals and waves of information that move faster than any message or phone call. These signals suggest that what you believe to be paused or finished is actually on the verge of a significant change. I understand that the path leading here has not been easy. You have endured nights filled with uncertainty. You have questioned repeatedly whether it was time to let go, whether you were waiting for nothing, or whether the connection you felt was simply created in your imagination. You may have experienced the emotional fatigue that comes from holding on to belief, while reality appears to offer only distance and silence. Today, I want you to understand this clearly. None of what you have felt has been meaningless. That persistence you feel in your heart, and the sense that you cannot fully close the door, is not stubbornness. It is your inner guidance signaling that this cycle is not finished yet, because the purpose of this connection has not been completed. What you are sensing now is the beginning of something taking form in real life. Often, just before a major shift occurs on the physical level, a person experiences an unusual emotional discomfort. It is similar to the quiet tension before the ocean pulls back to create a powerful wave. That is exactly the phase you are in at this moment. The energy has changed. Where there was once a solid wall of silence, small openings are now forming, allowing truth to slowly pass through. Your presence in this person's life, even without physical contact, has become impossible to overlook. It is important for you to understand that you are not waiting for someone who does not care. You are not waiting for someone who has forgotten you or moved forward without a second thought. The reality is far more complex and meaningful. While you have been dealing with uncertainty and inner questions, a significant spiritual shift has been unfolding on the other side of this connection. The universe has been working quietly, deep within unseen layers of the mind that no one else can reach, preparing the foundation for what is about to unfold. This person is now experiencing emotions they can no longer suppress or ignore. The reason you have been feeling this connection so strongly recently is because the resistance on the other side is gradually dissolving. The barriers this individual created out of fear, pride, or doubt are now beginning to break down. This is not the result of any external pressure, but rather the unavoidable weight of truth. And that truth is that the bond between you has foundations that extend far beyond logic. It is a spiritual connection that time cannot sever. However, to understand why this return has now become inevitable, and why the movement starting now will be unlike all previous attempts, we first need to look with compassion and clarity at what has been unfolding within this person's mind and inner world during their silence. We must recognize the inner conflict they experienced while trying to live as though you were no longer part of their reality. If you are ready to accept this awareness into your life, quietly affirm to yourself, "I trust the process." There is someone who has been acting with extreme caution. Someone who has observed you from a distance, torn between deep fear and an attraction they have struggled for a long time to suppress. During this period of separation, this person has been living in a way that drained them emotionally. On the surface, they may have appeared calm, steady, and in control. They may have even tried to present their life as continuing normally. They adopted a social front to convince others, and especially themselves, that creating distance was the correct choice. But over time, that front has grown too heavy to maintain. What remained unseen, and what is now being revealed to you for your own peace, is the internal struggle they faced night after night. This person attempted to resist their feelings. They tried to justify their distance through logic, convincing themselves that staying away was wiser and safer. They searched for explanations to support the separation, telling themselves it was the most reasonable decision. This came from pride, from fear of failure, or from a deep fear of losing emotional control. Sometimes people do not leave because they lack love. They leave because they do not know how to manage the intensity of a connection that makes them feel fully exposed. They withdraw because they believe they are incapable of loving without causing pain, either to another person or to themselves. But when a greater design brings two paths together, no mental plan can fully prevent it. The force of truth has slowly worn down these defenses. This person has come to see that life without your presence has turned dull, empty, and lacking vitality. They have begun to feel disconnected from who they truly are, as though they were playing a role in a story that no longer resonates with them. Each time they tried with determination to move away, an unseen force pulled them back, like an invisible brake, repeatedly guiding their thoughts toward you. This is more than simple nostalgia. It is an identity crisis sparked by a deep awakening within them. There have been sleepless nights when your name appeared in their mind without invitation. There were moments when they tried to focus on work or daily routines only for a memory of you to surface suddenly, vivid and powerful, in the quiet space of their thoughts. The universe has reshaped their memories, strengthened their courage, and repeatedly reminded them of what you truly represent. Take a moment to imagine the exhaustion of constantly moving against the natural direction of your own path. That is exactly what this person has endured. They resisted the force of a connection that could not be undone, and eventually understood that the control they believed they possessed was only an illusion. They came to realize that distancing themselves from you did not create freedom. Instead, it pulled them deeper into a quiet state of longing. What they once overlooked, they now recognize with an intensity that feels almost overwhelming. What they once avoided, they are now forced to confront, because there is no longer anywhere left to escape. There were times when they tried desperately to silence their inner voice by turning to distractions, other people, or constant noise to mask the absence you left behind. They compared you even if they never openly admitted it. They measured the depth of your presence against the shallow emotions they felt in other encounters. They compared the peace they experienced beside you with the constant unease they felt everywhere else. And in every comparison, they lost, or more accurately, they discovered the truth: your place in their life cannot be replaced by anyone else. These experiences did not create distance between you and them. Instead, they served as a reflection that revealed the reality they could no longer deny. They showed them that what you gave them on a deeper, spiritual level could never be found elsewhere. They searched for distractions and encountered only emptiness. And finally, they understood that what is shaped by destiny cannot be substituted with meaningless noise. Their inability to forget you is not a sign of weakness. It is the clearest evidence that you occupy a place in their life meant for you alone. The emptiness they felt while attempting to replace you became their most powerful lesson, teaching them that some connections are not interchangeable and were never meant to be replaced. This structure built on ego and fear is now breaking down. What once appeared to be an unmovable wall of pride is gradually transforming into a bridge of humility. This person has started to reflect on their own actions and to examine their mistakes, not to criticize themselves, but to gain understanding. They recall past conversations and moments when you reached out and they chose not to accept your hand. Now, with painful yet necessary clarity, they recognize the true importance you hold in their life. This collapse of the ego is essential. Without it, any attempt to return would have remained superficial and temporary. What is taking place now, however, is a transformation at the deepest level. This person has come to understand that letting you go would be the greatest mistake they could make. The confusion that once controlled their thoughts has been replaced by a firm sense of certainty. They now know that running away is no longer a choice. In that moment of openness, when every excuse had disappeared, they finally surrendered to what they were feeling. They searched for one final alternative, only to confront a truth that dissolved their resistance and turned it into acceptance. There is a universal principle that often goes unnoticed during the pain of separation, the law of contrast. At times, the universe allows someone to walk away, not so they lose you, but so the strong difference between your energy and everything else helps them realize who you truly are. This is precisely the process unfolding for this person now. When they stepped away from your energy, they believed they would find freedom, or perhaps something easier and less demanding. Instead, they encountered a powerful contrast that taught them to appreciate what they had previously taken for granted. Throughout this period of silence, they attempted to connect with other energies, not always in a romantic sense, but simply seeking companionship or distraction from life. Yet in these moments, the uniqueness of your vibration became impossible to ignore. Each attempt to form a new connection left them feeling heavy and internally empty. Conversations felt shallow and lacked the mental and spiritual depth that came so naturally with you. Where silence with you felt safe and understanding, silence with others only created noise and the exhausting need to explain themselves. This realization was both frustrating and deeply revealing. They began to understand that your presence was not merely pleasant company, but a secure space for their energy. Almost unconsciously, they started comparing the calm they felt with you to the unease they experienced with others. They remember how you listened, the full attention you offered, your patience, and that distinct light within you that always recognizes the good in people, even when they cannot see it themselves. Against the coldness of the outside world, the memory of you has become a source of warmth, a place they long to return to. What they feel now is not a simple emotional gap that anyone could replace. It is an absence with a very specific form, and that form belongs to you. They have realized that short-term experiences may occupy time, but they cannot nourish the soul. They feel like an outsider in their own life, forcing themselves into situations that no longer align with who they are. It is like trying to use an old key in a new lock. It does not fit, it does not turn, it opens nothing. This inner conflict has finally spoken a truth they tried to avoid for a long time. You were never simply another option in their life. You were a central part of their inner balance. Something deep within them has been activated, a quiet memory of what it truly means to feel at home. When two souls connect at the level where you did, a shared energetic home is created. It is an unseen space where both people can remove their masks and exist as they truly are. This person has come to understand that outside the space you created together, they feel exposed and exhausted. What once seemed like the comfort of distance has slowly turned into a weight. There is nothing more draining than pretending to be strong in environments where the soul feels no peace. The phase of comparison was difficult for their ego, which wanted to prove it could continue without you. Yet for their soul, this experience was restorative. It helped them recognize the difference between something that shines briefly and something that has lasting value. They now see that the bond they share with you is rare and not easily found. They understand that chemistry can exist with many people, but alchemy, the kind that transforms and elevates, was something they experienced only with you. This understanding has changed their impulse to run into a desire to return. This is not driven by neediness, but by a clear awareness of your value. What they feel now is not a quiet sadness about the past, but an active force guiding them back toward that sense of alignment. They have realized that their life feels clearer and more alive when you are part of it. The space created by your absence has become a strong presence in their everyday experience. Your silence has communicated more than words ever could. This awareness has awakened an old memory within them, the understanding that what exists between you did not begin by chance in this lifetime, but follows a deeper and older principle. To grasp the scale of this connection, it must be viewed from a broader perspective. It cannot be fully understood only through a human or mental lens. It must be seen through the spirit. What binds you together is not coincidence. You did not meet simply because your paths crossed randomly. You are part of something larger. You are key participants in a soul agreement. Long before you encountered each other in the physical world, your energies were already familiar. There exists an unseen agreement, a quiet promise made beyond time that you would meet to support each other's growth. This is why your connection felt so intense and so familiar from the very beginning. You did not simply meet, you recognized each other. However, part of that shared understanding often includes a period of separation, not as a form of punishment, but as an essential phase of inner growth. The distance you experienced was not an accident. It was a deliberate pause arranged by the deeper intelligence of life itself. Both of you required that space to learn lessons that could not have been learned while together at that moment. It may be that this person needed to confront their own inner struggles alone, so they would no longer project them onto you. And it is also possible that you needed time to discover your own inner strength and realize that your happiness is not dependent on another person. This separation served as a place where unhealthy fear and emotional dependency were dissolved. It was preparation for a more balanced and mature connection. Understand this clearly. In the realm of energy, physical distance is an illusion. There exists an unseen red thread, an energetic bond that connects you regardless of miles or silence. This thread may stretch and it may become tangled, but it does not break. It functions like a rubber band. The more one person tries to pull away, the greater the tension becomes, until that tension reaches its limit. When that pressure becomes too strong, the law of the spirit intervenes and draws the person back. Here is the significant role you have played recently, likely more than you are aware of. At some point you chose to let go. You stopped forcing outcomes, stopped chasing, and redirected your focus toward yourself. By reclaiming your energy and investing it in your own life, you shifted the direction of the connection. You stopped broadcasting a sense of lack and began expressing a state of inner fullness. In doing so, you activated a fundamental principle of the universe. The universe does not tolerate empty space. It always seeks to fill it. When you stopped occupying this person's space with waiting and worry, a quiet openness was created. Within that space and silence, the other person began to confront their own truth. Doing nothing became the most powerful action you could take. By releasing control, you allowed the universe to operate as it naturally does. You created a magnetic vacuum that now draws this person back with renewed strength. They feel this pull not in their thoughts, but deep within their body. They sense that something essential is missing, and they know exactly what it is. This is how souls restore balance. The resistance that once existed has now been overcome by the force of this connection. Soul agreements must be completed. When two people have agreed to grow side by side, the universe ensures that their paths cross again through signs and internal shifts. The period of solitude as preparation is coming to an end because the purpose of the separation has been fulfilled. Both of you have learned what you needed to learn while apart. Now, the natural rhythm calls for reunion. The energy that was once scattered is returning, combining to create something stronger and more radiant than before. Because energy is not limited by time or physical barriers, this reunion is already taking place on deeper levels. It sends out signals that appear as physical sensations. Recently, you may have noticed small signs, signals your logical mind tries to dismiss, but your heart recognizes clearly. At this stage of your journey, paying attention to subtle details is essential. The universe communicates in its own language when change is near. You may have felt it unexpectedly during your day. While focused on ordinary thoughts, a sudden awareness of this person may have appeared. This feeling is not a memory you consciously chose. You did not decide to think of them. Instead, it feels as if their presence entered the space without warning. You sense their energy almost as if it were tangible. This is not imagination, but evidence of energetic activity within your bond. We exist in a universe filled with information. When two people share a deep connection, their energy fields remain linked regardless of distance. What you experience are waves of thought being sent with such strength that your system receives them as your own. You may have noticed sudden shifts in your emotions without an obvious cause. Moments of calm followed by unexpected sadness or happiness. Understand that these feelings are often not yours alone. Like an antenna, you are receiving what the other person is experiencing as they become more aware. Another indication that this meeting is being arranged appears through repeating numbers. The universe communicates through numbers. When you repeatedly see sequences like 11, 11, 2, 22, or similar patterns, take notice. These are signals that you are aligned with the correct path. You might also hear their name unexpectedly, or a meaningful song may play just when you are beginning to lose faith. These signs are reminders to remain patient. Your physical senses can also reflect spiritual truths. Many people report sensing the familiar scent of this person or feeling a recognizable warmth. This occurs because their energy is being directed toward you with such clarity that your body perceives it as real. This person thinks of you so intensely that their presence almost forms in your world before they physically appear. Their thoughts reach you because their soul finds no rest away from you. This connection often continues through dreams. If you notice them appearing more frequently in a peaceful and steady way, it is important to pay attention. These are genuine encounters where ego has no place. In those moments, your inner selves are already communicating about renewal and the healing of past pain. When you wake up with a sense of calm, it is because an inner agreement has already been reached. The physical world, which naturally moves at a slower pace, now needs time to align with it. The strongest indicator is the shift within your own sense of peace. For a long period, waiting was filled with anxiety and unease. But as the moment approaches, that anxiety transforms into a deep stillness. An inner voice reassures you that there is no longer a need to chase or struggle. You sense that everything is already in motion. This calm reflects the awareness of someone who understands that what belongs to them is approaching. The universe has already sent what is meant for you. It is only a matter of timing before it arrives. These signs are not meant to confuse you. They act as guidance in uncertain moments. The universe is communicating with clarity. The silence begins to lift and energy starts moving again. This other person is experiencing the same signals. Even if their thoughts resist, their inner self has already chosen to return. You are now witnessing the beginning of a significant turning point. Your ability to remain centered is what opens the final door, allowing them to find the courage to move forward. At this moment, take a pause. Breathe deeply and allow this understanding to settle. It may stir emotions, but remember that energy responds to what we consciously accept as true. Words combined with clear intention have the power to bring into form what already exists on a deeper level. Often, the universe waits for your agreement before removing the final obstacles. Recognize that you play a role in shaping your own path. This person is being drawn toward you, but your readiness is essential. If feelings of resentment or doubt remain, they act as barriers. That is why this moment matters, to clear the way. This is not about chance or illusion, it is about alignment. When you declare that you are ready, you send a signal that dissolves the remaining fear in the other person. If these words resonate with you, take a moment to affirm them internally. Acknowledge that you are open to healing this connection. This is more than a thought, it is a decision. You are signaling that you allow what is meant to return and that your door is open. When many people do this, it creates a shared energy that supports everyone involved. Never believe you are undeserving. Often, the only thing blocking a breakthrough is the belief of not being enough. By saying yes, you release that fear. A simple wish becomes an active force. As you remain in this state, a shift occurs within the other person. Their resistance begins to fade, and hesitation turns into urgency. Once the receiver is ready, the one holding back feels compelled to act. After your inner acceptance, fear changes direction. Instead of fearing closeness, they begin to fear losing you permanently. In every meaningful connection, there comes a moment when fear reverses. For a long time, fear of vulnerability kept them distant. Now it has been replaced by the fear of missing the chance altogether. As you have grown and found inner balance, they have sensed you pulling back. They feel your independence and recognize that you are no longer waiting. This realization unsettles them. Even without direct contact, they perceive your growth. The connection shows them that you carry a quiet strength. The thought of watching you move on or seeing someone else value you deeply has shaken them. They understand that time is limited. This awareness transforms hesitation into urgency and no longer allows silence to feel comfortable. At the same time, the universe is clearing the way forward. In the past, there may have been external factors, opinions, circumstances, or other people that created distance. If you look closely now, those obstacles are weakening. The path is becoming clearer and more direct. People and situations that once stood between you are being repositioned. This signals that the foundation is being prepared for what comes next. The person you sense is now standing before a choice that cannot be delayed. Their heart has already agreed. Their actions are beginning to follow. When the moment arrives, it will not feel dramatic. It will feel familiar, like recognizing words written long ago. A quiet certainty will confirm that this was always the direction. Your role is to remain trusting and open. The universe is completing its work. What approaches is a new beginning grounded in honesty. Allow love to unfold naturally, without pressure, because it moves according to its own rhythm, and that rhythm has already been set.